back to our reading lesson with Library Mouse and the things that good readers do. We added something super important to our chart yesterday. What does it say, Miss Atwood?
Listen carefully.
And what did you learn about listening carefully yesterday?
I had to learn to keep my mind on the speaker, my hands on my lap, my ears open and paying attention, mouth closed, and legs relaxed.
Right, so it's a whole body experience to
Whole
listen.
body thing.
Right, you learn with your brain, you listen with your ears, you don't talk, and you're still. And a lot of you guys did a really nice job in your writings. We were super impressed.
Yes, nice writing. I was impressed. You know, I'm a writing person.
And it was neat and it made sense. You talked about having to really try to be able to listen, having to stay quiet with your lips closed, having your eyes on the person. You guys did fantastic. So we're going to keep doing that, right? Because there's still more in our book that we want to make sure we hear by listening carefully, because we don't want to miss out on anything that happens in Library Mouse. So again, Miss Atwood, do you feel like you can listen carefully as we keep reading today?
I can do it today.
And your job is to watch her, because I'm going to be reading. Okay, so you're going to check in, especially you, Theo. Make sure she's being a good listener. All right? But before we open the book even, there was something else that I thought of that good readers do that I felt like really happened a lot yesterday. And that was to learn new words and information. So we're going to add that up here. Learn new words and information. So Miss Atwood, when you were listening carefully, did you hear any new words or learn any new information from yesterday?
I did. A new word is not common. You know, just talking is stroll.
Ooh, that's right. So in the beginning of this story, it said, one evening Sam went for a stroll. And in your mind, when you looked at the picture, did you figure out what stroll meant?
It was
One evening he went for a stroll.
So that's walking.
Like a slow walk, right?
Yeah.
Kind of enjoying
Taking
it.
your time.
So when Miss Atwood was listening carefully, it helped her do this over here because it's something that good readers do. They listen carefully so that they can learn new words and information. So one that stuck out to me was that he was gazing.
And that means looking hard at something that it really caught your attention.
Right, it's almost like a wow moment.
Yeah.
Like, wow.
Right.
So he was gazing at all the neat things up on the bookshelf here. Okay? But then we met our new character, Sarah, and that's where this new information comes in. Because when we read the book in kindergarten, we didn't know who Sarah was. So by listening carefully, you learned that new information, that this character's name was Sarah. And what else did you learn about Sarah from yesterday?
Sarah was an explorer.
Yeah, so we learned that Sam likes to explore things through books, but that Sarah likes to do things.
She likes to be out there in it.
Yeah, with her actions. She was jumping with a parachute. Maybe that was a new word for you yesterday. So Sarah started talking about all the different things that she had been exploring, and one of them was a pyramid. So when Sarah was listening carefully to Sam yesterday, she was learning new words and information because she didn't know that it was called a pyramid. Yeah. So a pyramid, Sam said, like in ancient Egypt. Only the children made this one. There are pictures of real pyramids in these books you knocked off the shelf. Wow, Sarah said. I didn't know there were books about stuff like that. So because she was listening to Sam, right, and paying attention with her eyes and her ears and her brain, she was starting to figure out things that she didn't know before. It says, are there books about those other fun things that I was climbing on? You mean the Statue of Liberty and the Eiffel Tower? Sam grinned. Follow me. And that's where we left off yesterday, okay? So we're going to be careful listeners, and we're going to try and learn some new words and information. And if you're extra great, you might be able to fill in some of these things that good readers do down here. So let's find out what happens with Sam and Sarah when he says, follow me. We're going to do some research, Sam said. We'll start with Egypt. What's research? Sarah asked. That must be a new word.
Information.
Yeah, so she's going to get information about that new word. What's research? It's how you find out about things, Sam said. If you can't go to the real pyramids, you can read about them right over here. That kind of makes me think about the moon, right? I've always looked up at the night sky and thought, he's so cool to go to the moon. But I don't really feel like I'm ever actually going to go there. So instead of exploring the moon in person, in real life, I read about the moon and I kind of use my telescope to study the moon and do some research about it. And you said yesterday that you research places that you like to go.
So we always look to see if they got waterfalls. We're into waterfalls, so we kind of research before we get to go to the places.
And that's how you pick out the places you want to go.
Pick it out.
So research is super important, and we're learning about it by listening carefully. Sam and Sarah pored over dozens of books, and Sarah oohed and awed at all the pictures. She gazed up at the tall shelves and said, "Research is fun. Let's climb up high and see what books are up there." So you might have noticed or heard the word poured. When I think of that word poured,
You think like liquid pouring out.
but when I pay attention to what's happening in the story and I use the pictures, I don't see anything being poured
Poured
that
out,
way.
no.
It says Sam and Sarah pored over dozens of books, meaning they looked
over a lot of stuff.
and they looked carefully at them and kind of enjoyed them
Right.
and read them with their brains. So now they're going to go and explore up there.
That's pretty.
Except that's what Sarah said. Let's find out what actually happens. "Not tonight," Sam said warily, looking at the tall shelves. "Maybe we could play down here." "Well, then let's pretend that we're pharaohs in ancient Egypt," Sarah replied. "We can use these books for research on how to dress up." So did you hear any new words for you in that part? Miss Atwood, did you hear any new words in that part?
Let's see. Pharaoh.
Pharaohs. It says,
Yeah.
then let's pretend we're pharaohs. Maybe if we use the picture, we can see more about what pharaohs are. What do they look like to you?
I think they look like queens or somebody exotic.
Yeah, from Egypt, right? Like somebody back, they don't dress that way now.
Oh, no.
Because it's ancient Egypt.
Right.
But maybe this is what kings and queens in old-time Egypt used to
Look like.
wear and be pharaohs. Maybe that's a fancy word for that. Okay, it says it was nearly daylight when Sam returned home. He picked up his pencil to write about what had happened. He had never met anyone like Sarah before. But I want you to take a minute to think about Sam, okay? Because we're trying to learn new information about the characters as well, okay? It didn't seem like Sam was too interested
in doing that.
climbing up to the top. Like, he was excited to be with Sarah. He had
Right.
never met someone like Sarah before.
Right.
But he still wanted to do it his way, right? He wants to write about what they do without
Yeah.
actually
Going and
doing it.
Yeah.
Because Sarah wanted to climb the shelves, and he said, "Not tonight." So let's see what happens next. The next night, Sarah said, "There's a Jeep up there that's just our size, Sam. Come on. We can pretend we're exploring and drive to the top of the tallest mountain." "I don't think you can drive to the top of the tallest mountain in a Jeep," Sam said. "Besides, we can pretend from down here." "You're not afraid, are you?" Sarah asked. "Of course not," said Sam in a squeaky little voice. So, Miss Atwood, have you ever felt scared before?
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
And I have too. Sometimes when, again, people want us to try something new, right? Sometimes we might get that uncomfortable, scared feeling. Or when we feel like something might be dangerous,
Dangerous,
right? Like if we kind of sense that there's danger involved, I know that makes me scared. So sometimes there can be like an exciting scared feeling, and sometimes then there can be like a nervous.
Really scared.
So like I might be scared. I remember going on like a really big roller coaster with my family, but that was like a good scare, right?
Yeah, I love roller coasters.
Me too. I mean, the higher the better.
Yeah,
But as soon as I get closer and closer to the
Closer.
front, your brain
Yeah,
starts to
yeah.
think like, do I really
You
want
wanna
to do this?
Yeah,
Yeah.
true.
And so there's definitely, I've had that scared feeling before, like not wanting to be on a roller coaster. And I've also been scared about bigger things, like moving here kind of made me scared because it was different than something I had ever done before. It was something new. So I had to, pack all my stuff, leave my family, drive far away, buy a new house, all the things that go along with that. That
Right,
actually
that
made me
It's
scared.
a little scared because it's different.
So can you think of a time maybe that you were
first time trying to ride a horse because that horse is pretty big.
Okay. But you did it,
But I did it.
right?
And once I did it, I liked it.
See, there you go. Sometimes, again, you might sense a little bit of danger and maybe you just have to try it,
Yeah.
right? Or maybe you have to decide, nope, this
Nope,
really
it's
isn't
not
a
for
good
me.
idea,
Yeah.
and walk away. So let's see what Sam does. Let's see if he ends up finding that Jeep. Sarah saw that Sam was nervous. We could always do a little research first, she said. Good idea, said Sam. Because again, research is with books, so seems like that's really his area, is to
Right.
read about it
Read
without
about it.
actually doing it. While looking at a book about mountain climbers, Sarah had another idea. I'll be right back, she said, and she returned with some string and a paper clip. What do you think she's going to have him do? I wonder, they were reading about mountain climbers, and she came back with
Oh.
string and a paper clip.
Mm.
And then, take a look. Does it look like Sam might actually try?
The hook over there.
I don't know, let's find out. I'll hook one end of the string up at the top, she said. Then I'll drop the other end down for you to tie around your waist. That way you won't have to worry about falling. So it seemed like maybe she learned new information when she was researching about the mountain climbers and how they do it
How
safely.
they do it, yeah.
So it makes Sam maybe feel a little bit more comfortable with that. I'm not worried, Sam said as she started to climb. But then soon it was his turn. He remembered he had read that when climbing, he should not look down. So he did it.
That's right.
So he did try it. I'm
You
proud
did
of
try
him
it, yeah.
for trying. That's awesome. Okay. At the top of the shelf, Sam breathed a sigh of relief. That might be a new word for some of
Yeah.
our friends. Relief is like when you're like, whew,
Ooh, I'm there.
I'm glad that's over, right? When you're no longer scared or nervous because something is done. You're relieved. It hadn't been as scary as he had thought it would be, and he and Sarah played and played until dawn. Back on the ground, Sarah said, you know, I bet we could explore even more of the world if we rode on that airplane over there.
Ooh.
So if you've been a careful listener so far, I want you to think about what you might have Sam answer when Sarah suggests that they go fly on that airplane over there. Miss Atwood, do you think Sam's going to jump right in and say, yeah, Sarah, that's a great idea?
I don't think so. He has to really think about something new every time.
So what do you think he might say instead? Like,
Do research down on the floor.
I think so too. Sam looked up at the display that the librarian had hung above all of the tallest shelves. It doesn't really fly, he said, and we probably couldn't reach it anyway. So there you can kind of see that he's still a little nervous. But because you guys are listening carefully, you're able to figure this stuff out. I know it can't fly, Sarah said, but think of how much of the world we could see from up there. We can climb to the top of this bookshelf and then jump over to the plane. It'll be easy. But Sarah would not take no for an answer. Sam, she said, tonight we're going into that airplane and we're going to see the world. Throughout the day, Sam was so nervous. He could hardly sleep or even read. He didn't want to let Sarah or himself down, but he didn't want to get into that airplane either. I'm going to show you this picture here because this is actually going to be where we stop for the day. Okay, which means you're going to have to tune in tomorrow to see if they actually
They
get
in that plane.
and where they go, if they do, or what Sam does or says to talk Sarah out of it. But there are two more bubbles that we need to add to our What Good Readers Do chart. And we actually did it without really thinking about it, Miss
Right.
Atwood. One of them was to link what we read to our own lives. So link what we read to our own lives. So like when you talked about the horses, right? And I talked about the roller coaster,
Right.
we were thinking about what the characters were doing in their story and kind of making that connection to things that we've done. So even though we're not mice,
Right.
right? And we're not, trying to mountain climb up a bookshelf.
Right.
We can still think about the way the characters are feeling or the kinds of things the characters are doing and relate them back to things that we've felt or we've done. So the other thing over here is to share ideas and feelings. Miss Atwood, what feeling do you feel like has come up a lot in the book so far?
Well, for Sam, a little hesitant feeling, or make him think about whether he should do it or not do it.
Yeah, he's a bit like
Yeah.
nervous. He's a bit
skeptical
unsure,
yeah.
scared even a little bit. So if we are being good readers by listening carefully and learning this about our character, we can link to our own lives and then share our ideas and our feelings. So I want you to think about a time when you've been scared or unsure, kind of like me and my roller coaster, or me and my move, or Miss Atwood and her horses, okay? So you're going to say, I felt, and I'm not going to tell you the feeling word because I want you to come up with however you're going to describe those feelings, because that's something that good readers do. They share their ideas and feelings, okay? I felt,
Whatever word.
when, and then you're going to tell me about a time in your life when you had that feeling. Okay? So this is another job for you to do on a real pencil and paper. I told you we're going to be getting that out almost every day so that we can train those muscles to hold a pencil, to move and make the letters nicely. And you guys did great with it yesterday.
You're doing a good job. I like it.
So I'm going to go ahead and put this on Seesaw for you. You're going to get out another paper. You're going to write, I felt, when, and then tell me about when you felt that way, okay? And do the same thing. Take a picture of it so that I can see your writing, and then that's what you post on Seesaw. Some of you did add the drawings yesterday, like Serenity drew a pretty picture of reading, two people reading on hers, and Ellison drew a great picture of him being quiet with his mouth. So if you want to add a picture to go with your writing about the time when you felt that way, okay, because again, you get to choose the feeling in here, I think that might add a little bit extra to your work today. Does that sound good, Miss Atwood?
Sounds good.
All right, so tomorrow we're going to tune back in for our last part of Library Mouse, and we're going to maybe go back through all of these and kind of review what good readers do. Does that sound good? All right, see you guys.